Gabe. Hi, this is Gabe. Welcome back to a new video. In this video, we're going to be making a ink view window. In the past, I've made ink view windows and I've used acrylic that I've cast myself using Casting Craft clear acrylic resin, and I would just cut off a piece couple inches long, and then I would turn it down into a round cylinder. But I've found over the years this turns slightly yellow. So I'm starting out with a 3/4 inch blank. They're 3/4 inch acrylic rods, and I got those on Amazon. They weren't very expensive. These are clear, and although they work really good, they are a little bit harder to polish, but they do clean up very good. So that's the reason I'm going to use these. I don't know if they yellow throughout the years, but time will tell. So anyway, the process is I've got a small piece here chucked up, and I've got some lines on it. This is a piece big enough for 2 ink view windows. I've got about a 1/4 inch line right here, about 3/8 of an inch, and then another 1/4 inch line, and then a break, and so forth. But anyway, you'll have to trust me on that. It doesn't really show very good in the camera. Maybe you can see that. And then this right here, about a 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8, is just for holding in the chuck. So just for stability wise, I'm gonna bring that almost about halfway back. And then before I do any turning, I want to pre-drill this. And I want to drill this out using an 11/32 brad point drill bit. And the interesting thing about this is when you're drilling it, of course it gets hot. You can almost see it bubble because it turns to liquid as it's being drilled out. Let's tighten that up.
Slow speed on the lathe.
Now the drill bit itself does not come clean. That is like coated with thick plastic. That's from the acrylic literally melting and bonding onto the drill bit. So what I have to do is I actually have to take a torch and burn that off and then quench it so I can retain the hardness of the drill bit and then resharpen it. Off camera, I turn these shoulders here and here down to 14 millimeters. And I had to do it in 2 steps. I had to do it a little bit at a time and then let it cool off because it gets really gummy and it doesn't turn, or it will grab and peel apart. So I have to let it cool, come back to it, and then finish turning that down to 14 millimeters. Now this middle part, I'm going to turn this down to 16 millimeters, and we'll do that real quick. And I have my gauge set for 16. 16 millimeters is about the final width. I'm looking at close to about 15.5 millimeters, so half a millimeter left on there. That gives me room to sand away and polish. And the reason I left these so thick is because I needed this thick enough to support this while this is being turned. So then I can bring this down to its final size, but I'll do that after I polish, meaning we have to wet sand, and we're going to be using micro mesh, and we're going to be going through all the grits from 1500 grit to 12,000 grit. So we need to polish the inside, wet sand that, and then wet sand the outside so that we can see how clear that is before I actually turn down these shoulders to their final thickness. Okay, so now let's move on to wet sanding the inside of the InkView window first. And you can see I've got some micro mesh laid out. And if you're curious as to how did I get little strips of micro mesh, I buy these bigger pads of micro mesh, and then I just cut these down to the size that I need it. And typically I can get 2 large pads of each, and then, or actually 3, and then I get 2 sets of the small. And what I'll do is I'll take one of these and I'll split it, and I'll just remove the foam, and then that way I can use this like this. And what I do is I've just rounded out a pencil, nothing extravagant. You can see the slit in there, and I just thread that like that, roll it, and then underneath my lathe I've got a bowl of water. I'll dip that in the water like that. That's why I've got a towel here, right here, to collect any water drippings. And then I'll just insert that as it's running. But because this is still a little too coarse for the 1500, I'm using just some 220. No, I'm sorry, this is 180. And then I do this on a slow speed, no vacuum, not necessary. And then I'm going to do that several times with that really wet. And then that breaks that down on the inside. And then as I'm inside that, I'll roll this like this inside to get all the sandpaper being used. And you can see the slurry that's created. And it's probably time to replace that one with a different one. And I'll start out with 180, 220, 400, and then I'll hit my my micro mesh. That way I can get rid of those heavy scratches from the drilling. But you get the basic idea like that. And so now I'm going to move on up to 1500. We'll do the outside first. Then I want to do the inside. This is 2400. 3,200. $1,500. This is 4,000. This is 6,000. This is 8,000. This is 12,000. It looks like I have a scratch in there, a couple of deep scratches still. So I'm just going to repeat the same process again off camera, and then we'll come back. We're back after another time around. Actually, I did this 2 more times, and you can see how clear that is. And just using micro mesh and water, that's all it is. Nothing fancy. And just going through the steps, some patience. That's all it takes. Next, we'll turn this right here, these shoulders down. Just something I do to store them. I take these little nib containers. When I get my Joa number 6 nibs, I just stack these in here like this and just shove those in there. And then it keeps them nice and level and in order. They don't take up that much space. When I want to take them out, I just grab some tweezers, squeeze the whole thing, and then pull it all out at once. Anyway, that's how I keep those stored. Okay, so next we want to turn this and this down to 27/64. I have my calipers all set and ready to go. This acrylic is very touchy. It gets really gummy really quick, so you can only turn a little bit at a time. You got to stop, kind of wait for it to cool off for a minute, and then go back at it, and then do it in multiple stages. So it's a little bit of a process.
It's not even close. So it turns white like that. It's hot. So it's got to cool off.
All right, so that took about 10 minutes to get those shoulders turned down to the right dimension. And then all I have to do is just cut those off. So I'm going to take my little mini gent saw and then turn that off using that instead of using a parting tool. And then that is ready to use. So this will go inside a body like that, and then the upper portion like that. After I cut some aluminum, then that'll be glued up, and then that will be ready to go in a pen. So if you like this video on making a ink view window, give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.